Allied DUKW amphibious trucks roll onto the shore as German sentries watch, stunned by a novel roll-in force that seems to appear from both sea and road. The loud clatter of engines and the splashing wake reveal how quickly these river-to-shore vehicles break the stale routine of a secured front. Shocked faces of German troops reflect the unpredictable mobility of the amphibious fleet as the duck boats redefine how the battle for the coast could unfold.
March 23, 1945, 2100 hours, western shore of the Rhine River, near Wesel, Germany. Oberst Wilhelm Steinberg steadied his binoculars as he surveyed the dark river, the lens trembling almost imperceptibly in his gloved hands. Every few seconds, he scribbled short notes into a worn field notebook, observations that would later appear in captured German archives. The Americans have reached the Rhine, our sacred river, yet they will not cross it. This was more than confidence. It was a lesson forged by 2,000 years of history. No foreign army had ever forced the Rhine under fire without bridges. On the opposite bank, artillery flashes strobed the night sky. Thousands of guns firing in a rhythm Steinberg recognized instantly. A massive bombardment ahead of what must be a traditional river assault. German commanders expected days of engineering work, pontoon bridges creeping into place, wide-open crossing points that German 80s could obliterate at will. The Rhine, more than 1,300 feet wide with a ferocious current, was considered nature's final fortress. Even as the Reich collapsed on both fronts, German engineers insisted no army could cross such a river without time the Wehrmacht would use to counterattack and crush them in the water. Across the river waited the men of the British 51st Highland Division, 7th Battalion, the Black Watch, silent, prepared, but not for a conventional assault. No flimsy inflatable boats shuttling men into slaughter. No fragile pontoon bridges inviting artillery fire. They would ride the river aboard machines German commanders had catastrophically underestimated. Strange hybrid trucks the Allies called DUKWs. German intelligence, having seen these odd swimming trucks in Normandy and Italy, dismissed them as logistical accessories, irrelevant to serious river warfare. A blindness rooted in doctrine, arrogance, and outdated assumptions was about to transform the Rhine, supposedly Germany's greatest natural defense, into a highway of invasion. The roots of that blindness stretched back months. General Hans Speidel and others mocked reports about the Americans' amphibious logistics capabilities. Swimming trucks? A joke. Just more Allied waste, like floating bakeries or ships designed to supply Coca-Cola to troops. Major Hans-Georg Model, son of the famed Field Marshal Walter Model, documented his certainty in his diary. River warfare had rules. You needed overwhelming artillery, major bridge construction efforts, and above all, time. Time during which defenders could pour fire into a confined crossing. Captured German intelligence later revealed Oberst Friedrich Wenzel had mentioned DUKWs in only 3 reports over 6 months, and each time concluded they posed no significant threat. German estimates suggested perhaps 50 to 100 such vehicles in Europe. The truth was astonishingly different. By March 1945, more than 2,000 American DUKWs operated in the European theater, fully trained and organized into amphibious truck units. The British possessed another 2,000 thanks to Lend-Lease. Canadian forces added 800 more. This wasn't a specialized side unit. It was an entire amphibious infrastructure Germany had never acknowledged. The vehicle itself, born of a mishap in April 1942, was proof that American innovation often came from unexpected places. When a Coast Guard vessel ran aground near Provincetown, Massachusetts, engineers realized no standard truck could handle rough surf. That minor crisis sparked a radical solution. Naval architect Rod Stevens Jr., engineer Dennis Puliston, and OSRD innovator Palmer Putnam designed a truck that could drive off a pier and continue straight across water. Ford rejected the idea as unrealistic. General Motors accepted instantly. 38 days later, the prototype existed. June 2nd, 1942. Built on a GMC 2.5-ton chassis encased in a watertight hull, equipped with a propeller linked to the transmission, featuring the world's first central tire inflation system, the DUKW conquered terrain that tanks and trucks feared. Its name, DUKW, was merely a GMC production code, D for 1942 model year, U for utility, K for all-wheel drive, W for dual rear axles, simple, rugged, reliable. Mass production soared, 21,147 vehicles built by war's end, each costing about $10,750. Yet on this cold March night, German commanders still believed the Rhine would protect them. General Alfred Schlemm's first parachute army, once feared, had been destroyed in the Reichswald, 90,000 men gone. Germany's mobile reserves consisted of exhausted Panzer IVs, battered armored cars, and teenage Volkssturm, with mismatched rifles and armbands instead of uniforms. A letter from Feldwebel Otto Kraus on March 20th reflected their confidence. "We hear their engines all night, thousands of them. But the Rhine shields us. Napoleon himself could not force the river under fire. Our guns own every crossing." German doctrine still insisted the Allies needed 48 to 72 hours before tanks could reach the eastern bank. They believed the river granted them a crucial margin of safety. They believed wrong. Hidden in orchards, barns, and wooded river approaches were hundreds of DUKWs, each loaded with ammunition, radios, engineers, and heavy weapons. Lieutenant Colonel William Thompson of the 458th Amphibious Truck Company later summarized their mission perfectly. "We were not here to ferry soldiers in and out. We were the bridge." Every part of the German defensive playbook, fortifications, artillery, doctrine, relied on one assumption: slowing the enemy down. But the Rhine would not slow them. It would carry them forward. At exactly 2100 hours, green signal flares streaked upward. Engines coughed to life in unison. Propellers churned the black water into white spray. Steinberg raised his binoculars again and froze. The first UKWs simply entered the river and floated, effortlessly pushing forward through artillery smoke. Then came more, dozens, then hundreds. Infantry assault boats followed. Behind them, DUKWs carried artillery. Behind them, more DUKWs carried tanks ready to deploy minutes after the first men captured the opposite shore. German officers screamed into field telephones, "Impossible! Vehicles do not swim." But they were swimming and bringing an entire army with them. By dawn on March 24th, 1945, less than 6 hours after the operation began, the last great natural defense of the Reich had failed. The Rhine had been breached, not by pioneers laying bridges under fire, not by heroic massed boat assaults, but by trucks that swam. For 2,000 years, the Rhine repelled invaders. On this night, for the first time in recorded history, it became a highway. And Oberst Steinberg wrote the final entry he never imagined he would record. "The Americans have crossed. Our river has failed us." History remembers the giant Tiger and Panther tanks, icons of German engineering. But the machines that opened the road into the heart of Germany were humble DUKWs, dismissed as irrelevant. Germany prepared for a war of fortresses and firepower. The Allies won by ingenuity, logistics, and wheels that could conquer water. The DUKW duck trucks became one of America's most surprisingly effective tools of World War II, a simple, reliable amphibious vehicle that turned rivers and coastlines from German defenses into Allied highways. While German commanders prepared for panzers, artillery, and infantry assaults, they never expected thousands of cargo-hauling boats on wheels to appear from the water and push deep into the heart of the Reich. The DUKW didn't just carry supplies, it carried victory, proving that innovation and logistics win wars just as much as firepower.